Steel doors, armed guards, concrete walls several feet thick. Around the world, governments spend billions building prisons that are supposed to be impossible to escape. Every gate is locked, every movement is watched, every second is monitored. Yet, throughout history, a handful of prisoners proved that even the strongest prisons could fail. Some escaped through patience, others relied on brilliant planning, a few simply took advantage of one small mistake. Their escapes embarrassed governments, changed prison security forever, and became legends that are still studied today. Welcome back to Empire POW. Today, we're counting down 5 prison escapes that fooled the entire world. Stay until the end because the #1 escape remains one of history's greatest mysteries.
At number 5 is Richard Matt and David Sweat. In 2015, Clinton Correctional Facility in New York was considered one of America's most secure, maximum security prisons. Thick concrete walls, armed guard towers, steel doors, and constant surveillance made escape seem impossible. But inside the prison, 2 inmates had been quietly preparing for months. Night after night, Richard Matt and David Sweat secretly cut through the steel walls of their cells using hidden power tools. They worked slowly, carefully hiding every sign of damage before morning inspections. Once they finally broke through, they entered a maze of maintenance tunnels beneath the prison. Crawling through narrow pipes and dark passageways, they eventually reached a manhole outside the prison walls. By the time guards conducted the morning head count, both men had vanished. The escape triggered one of the largest manhunts in New York's history. Thousands of officers, helicopters, canine teams, and tactical units searched forests and nearby towns for weeks. The case exposed serious weaknesses in prison maintenance systems and forced correctional facilities across the United States to strengthen internal security.
At number 4 is Pascal Payet. Most prison escapes involve tunnels or disguises, but Pascal chose a method nobody expected. While serving time in a French prison, a helicopter suddenly appeared above the prison yard. Before guards fully understood what was happening, the aircraft landed inside the facility. Payet ran across the yard, climbed aboard, and within seconds the helicopter lifted off, disappearing into the sky. The entire escape lasted only a few minutes. Even more unbelievable, years later he escaped again using another helicopter. His daring escape shocked France and forced prison authorities to redesign rooftops, strengthen airspace security, and prepare for threats that had previously seemed impossible. Today, his name remains one of the most famous in the history of modern prison escapes.
At number 3 is Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. By the time El Chapo was imprisoned inside Mexico's Altiplano Federal Prison, authorities believed they had finally secured one of the world's most powerful drug traffickers. The prison was protected by cameras, reinforced concrete, armed guards, motion sensors, and constant surveillance. It seemed impossible for anyone to escape. But beneath the prison floor, an extraordinary operation had been secretly unfolding. A sophisticated tunnel stretching more than 1.5 kilometers had been built directly beneath El Chapo's shower area. The tunnel wasn't just a hole in the ground. It contained electric lighting, ventilation systems, and even a motorcycle mounted on rails to transport equipment. On the day of the escape, security cameras showed El Chapo entering the shower area. Seconds later, he disappeared from view. By the time officers realized what had happened, he had already entered the tunnel and escaped far beyond the prison walls. The escape embarrassed the Mexican government, dominated international headlines, and became one of the most sophisticated prison breaks ever recorded. But if you think helicopters and secret tunnels are unbelievable, the next 2 prison escapes are even more extraordinary. One happened inside the world's most famous prison, and the other remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. At number 2 is the Alcatraz escape. For decades, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary sat on a small island surrounded by the freezing waters of San Francisco Bay. The prison was considered escape-proof. Powerful ocean currents, icy water, armed guards, and towering walls convinced everyone that leaving Alcatraz alive was impossible. Yet in June 1962, 3 inmates, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, set one of the most carefully planned escapes in history into motion. For months, they secretly widened the ventilation openings inside their cells using homemade tools. Every night, they covered the holes so guards wouldn't notice. They even created realistic dummy heads with painted faces and real human hair, placing them on their beds to fool officers during nighttime inspections. Once everything was ready, the 3 men crawled through the openings, climbed into a hidden service corridor, reached the prison roof, and disappeared into the darkness. Investigators later discovered that they had built an inflatable raft using stolen raincoats. The largest search in Alcatraz history followed, but no trace of the 3 men was ever found. Whether they drowned in the icy bay or successfully escaped remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. More than 60 years later, investigators and historians continue to debate what really happened that night.
At number 1 is the Great Escape from Stalag Luft III. During World War II, Germany built a heavily guarded prison camp to hold captured Allied airmen. The camp was specifically designed to prevent escapes. Hidden microphones were buried underground, guard towers overlooked every section of the compound, and the sandy soil was chosen because any digging would be easy to detect. Yet hundreds of prisoners secretly launched one of the most ambitious escape plans ever attempted. Working for more than a year, they dug 3 massive tunnels beneath the camp. To avoid suspicion, they secretly hid the dirt inside their clothing and quietly scattered it around the prison yard during exercise periods. They built ventilation systems, wooden supports, improvised railway tracks, and even electric lighting inside the tunnels. Everything was handmade using stolen or improvised materials. On the night of March 24, 1944, the escape began. Prisoners quietly entered the tunnel one by one, hoping to disappear into the darkness before sunrise. 76 men successfully escaped before the operation was discovered. Although many were eventually recaptured, the incredible planning, teamwork, and determination behind the escape made it one of the most famous prison break stories ever recorded. Decades later, military historians still study how such an enormous operation remained hidden for so long. These prison escapes weren't successful because the prisons were weak. They succeeded because every security system has one thing in common: it depends on human decisions. A single mistake, one overlooked detail, or months of patient planning can sometimes defeat even the strongest defenses. Each of these escapes forced governments to redesign prisons, improve security, and rethink what escape-proof really means. Which prison escape shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy real stories about history, investigations, and unbelievable true events, subscribe to Empire POW and join us for the next documentary.